George Payton, can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Yes, I'm the head of economics at Forest and also the marketing. Straight away, straight into nonsense. I'm so sorry. Shall I just carry on with the answer and not need the question again? Yes, I'm the marketing officer at Forest School and press liaison. I'm also the head of economics and in fact taught Omar Sheik.
Can you remember when you first came across the boy?
Yes, for A-level. He had been with us from 1981 to 87, but I saw him when he came back in January 1991 and started on a 4 A-level course.
Just one moment. So we just started again.
Mm-hmm.
Very good. Can we do that again?
Yes, I'm a warden as well, sorry. That's a good start again.
And yeah. Tell me of the first time Omar Sheik came to the school, your recollections of.
The first time I met him, he came into my A-level class. Very strongly built young man, very personable and very successful academically.
And what sort of subjects was he doing at the time?
He scored A grades at A-level in economics and maths, in fact got a merit in the maths papers. He also got B grades in general studies and in English literature and a D grade in religious studies.
Did he fit into the school?
Extremely well, a very popular young man. Not only in terms of being willing to comply with staff instructions and support his house, we in fact made him head of house, and being a monitor at school events, but also in terms of contributing to lessons.
No, he was here in 2 bits, wasn't he?
That's right, yes he was. He came in 1981 originally and left in 87. In the meantime, we gave him a scholarship at 11 plus, which indicates of course that we've got a fairly bright young man here. But then he came back in January 1991 and left in June, July 1992. The point being there, of course, that again this young man is taking A-levels, moving on to LSE with only 4.5 terms of an A-level course under his belt. He did very well indeed.
So what sort of an ethos does Forest School have?
That's a hell of a question actually. Where do you want the ethos to go? Do you want it in terms of religious background or do you want it in terms of educational?
What sort of people do you want to produce?
Oh right, okay. Basically, we want to produce people who are academically capable, who fit in with the world at large, and who can contribute well to society, whether that be in sporting, academic, or any other field.
And in terms of university entry, where would he have been aiming for?
He was a near Oxbridge candidate, and by that I mean he had the ability, perhaps had he had a full 6 terms here, to have made an Oxbridge application. But LSE, of course, is an extremely good university too, and that's one of our top-ranking pupils, if you like.
The fact that he got these good grades, did that fit in with the way that he had been performing through his school time?
Absolutely so. The fact that as we... That's why the
Hang on one moment, just wait for
Yeah.
to dive it.
I've got the question. Yes?
One moment. Still some voice. Yeah.
Absolutely so. For a young man who was awarded a scholarship and then came back to us to pursue A-levels, we found him to be very, very capable in the classroom. Always willing to ask a question, always able to see if he was on slightly the wrong tack, always willing to take advice. A very clever young man, in fact.
It's a very English sort of school, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, well, it is. We have a good cultural mix here, but we have a basic English Anglican traditional background. That's very true.
And you were saying something about Harry Potter.
Oh, sorry. Yes. One of the things we're quite proud of is some of our...
Yeah.
One of the things we're rather proud of is our Harry Potter look-alike dining hall, which you'll find featured in... No, that's nonsense. You don't hear that rubbish, do you?
For a moment, just wait a minute. We see a bit of a...
Yes, I can see. Yes, that's right. Yes. One of the things which we're quite proud of, for example, is our Harry Potter look-alike, or Hogwarts look-alike dining hall, which you can see in the shot at the moment.
When Omar was here, you taught him yourself.
Yes, that's right. I taught Omar.
Did he make an impression on you? You must have hundreds of boys going past you.
Mm.
Do you remember him or what he was like as a boy?
Omar stood out. We do have dozens of pupils, of course, passing under our spell, as it were, every year. But Omar stood out partly because of his physical presence, although he was never intimidating, partly because he was, as it were, an old English gentleman in many respects. His manners were impeccable, and partly, probably more importantly, because he was such a clever young man in the classroom, always willing to challenge and always willing to accept any correction that might need to be made in his stance.
Very good. Just at the very end, always willing to accept windmills.
Ah,
Anything on
okay.
that?
What was the question again? Yes, but dozens of pupils. Yes, we see dozens of pupils each year, of course, coming under our spell, but Omar stood out for a number of reasons. He was physically a presence in the classroom. He was a very capable young man in the classroom, always willing to offer an opinion, and a very valid opinion too, but always willing to accept a correction where necessary. And he supported the school extremely well at all public events.
Did he always agree with you?
He often disagreed with me, but the important point, of course, was that he could accept that there was an alternative proposition.
And did he have any mannerisms? Did he say no?
I'm sorry. One of the things that I most remember about Omar was the fact that almost every lesson he would lean back in his chair, simply say no with arms folded, and wait for a response from me. The point being, of course, that he was therefore disagreeing with the point I'd made, a matter of policy or a matter of economic theory. The delightful thing, of course, was that he would listen very carefully to an answer and then, at the end of the day, have to agree, and do so willingly. In fact, I did supervise Omar's university applications as well. We had great hopes for this young man. Not only LSE, of course, but then his preferred career move into the city. So we're expecting great things, which of course makes it doubly difficult to understand how this young man we're seeing now fits in with the young man that we knew.
Do you have an explanation?
It's a very difficult one, of course, to understand why. The problem we have is that the young men going out in the world come under so many different influences, and I'm afraid we can't legislate for that. All we can offer, of course, is our general sympathies for those people who have suffered at his hands. The next thing we heard of Omar was that he had left the LSE, in fact, and in 1994, of course, was involved in some way in the Indian hijacking. And that was the first we knew, and then again later on, of course, in the Daniel Pearl incident.
No, the Indian hijacking was
99.
99. There was a kidnapping in 94.
Kidnapping in 94.
Sorry, yes.
So when was, I'm sorry, I got the dates mixed up.
He was involved in the kidnapping in India in 94.
94, that's right.
Then 99, the hijacking.
Oh,
was
the
released.
hijacking.
He was in jail for 4 years.
That's right, from 94.
Then released.
I do apologise, that's quite right, yes. I'll take it
And
again.
how did you hear about it? Just in the media or something?
The next we heard of Omar was through media interest, in fact, when he had dropped out of university and was involved in the Indian Airlines hijacking situation. And then, of course, after that, in the Daniel Pearl incident.
So any explanation of that either?
It's extremely difficult to understand what goes on in a young man's mind. He did come under some rather heavy influences, we understand. I did understand that he'd gone to assist in various troubled locations around the world. How he moved from assistance to what appears to be terrorism is really, frankly, beyond me.
Do you think it's possible to identify trends in a young boy, or is that impossible?
It's extremely difficult to identify any particular trend in a young man. What you can say, of course, is what happened when he was under your care. When he moves on, he comes under so many other influences, it's almost impossible to suggest what might have happened to turn his mind. We had a young man here who we had great hopes of. What turned him into a young man who apparently is doing rather dark deeds is very difficult to understand.
He did well in economics, he did well in maths, but he didn't do, can you just refer to the D?
Yes, he did very well indeed in mathematics, of course, having an A grade at A level, with merit in fact, also an A grade in economics, but wasn't quite as successful in religious studies, having achieved a D there, although he did make up some ground with English literature B grade and a general studies B grade. He did some boxing, I understand, but that was before he came to us. But while he was with us, he came actually as champion, I believe, in the Clapham Open middleweight division for arm wrestling. As one of his great loves. In fact, something he sported around the sixth form common room at regular intervals. But more than that, he was always very willing to come in and join us for our athletics meetings. I remember on one occasion, in fact, when we were short of a runner for the 4x400 relay. He wasn't really a runner, but he was the first to put his hand up and say, let me help you get the point at least.
Chess?
Omar was also, of course, a very capable, no, it's nonsense. Omar also did rather well outside the classroom in other fields. He was, for example, the London Prep School's champion at chess for 2 years running.
Your school has produced some important sportsmen. Can you recall something?
Yes, we're rather more proud, of course, of some of the leading lights in society we've produced, from sportsmen like Nasser Hussain to Professor Banat Vara in the world of medicine.